flipping the camera would help. Good morning, everybody. Wednesday as usual, and running a few minutes late for today's live, but we're looking forward for David Gazarian from the IQRate Mortgage to join us and to actually tell us the news about the brand new program that they started working with that is giving an opportunity to a lot of our clients to qualify for the mortgage. David is coming up right now, but today's topic is going to be overall the mortgage affordability. Let me welcome David. Good morning, Jeanette. David, good morning. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. And I was just saying how excited I am to hear about the brand new program that you and I have been talking about this week, and then we're super excited and how many opportunities our clients are going to get with this program now.
I know. This is exciting because for one reason, the lots of self-employed people have options. There's so many options for self-employed borrowers to purchase homes. There's the bank statement loan, there's the profit and loss, 1099 loan. There's so many alternative loan programs. And let's explain what we mean by alternative or non-QM. This means that you don't have taxes, you don't want to show your taxes, right? So when you don't show your taxes, there's so many Uber drivers or self-employed people that just deduct the hell out of their taxes. So honestly, not everyone qualifies for a mortgage, and there's alternative programs. And for the longest time, I was searching for an alternative program for the W-2 employees, and the W-2 employees is so significant because there's so many in Las Vegas. You've got the valet attendants, you've got the cocktail waitresses. Jesus, excuse me, guys. Sorry. So this town is the industry is W-2 employees working in the casino industry, working in tipped jobs that don't necessarily have all of their income being reported properly or fully, right? And we all know this. Cocktail waitresses make cash, valet attendants and doormen make cash.
I mean, service industry people all over the United States, they make the majority or the major part of their income is going to be cash. We're talking about like hairdressers,
Yes.
like any beautician, any like there's so many people in the service industry that
Yes.
that the major part of their income comes from cash that sometimes is being registered and sometimes is not. Of course, with Zelle and Venmo right now on the in the play, it is easier to track, but it's still, I used
Yes.
to be a dealer in the casino, and I would say that close to 40% of our income was coming from the cash tips, and we were, yeah.
I had no idea you worked at the
I was
casino.
young ones,
I worked at the Orleans. Okay.
But yeah, that's, and we were working
Okay.
for the temp agency where we had the ability to switch around the casinos, to pick and choose the properties where we work. And for that reason, I mean, remember that was like 13, 15 years ago, but nevertheless, we were getting our tips in an envelope in cash at the end of each month.
So to sort of bring this home for employees, for the individuals that work at our W-2, considered W-2, all we need is number one, 20% down, right? And also what we also need is there's one sheet of paper, very basic sheet of paper. Any official from the business, it could be the business owner, could be the bookkeeper, could be the direct supervisor, we don't care. As long as they say how much money this person makes on one line. We just need one lump sum. And they sign and date the document. We're good. We got yourself a mortgage. We don't want your pay stubs, W-2s, taxes. We don't want any of that. One sheet of paper asks 3 questions. When did they get, how long have they been with the company? Do they own a share in the company? And how much money did they make? It says all sources in parentheses. This is exciting because it means all cash, all Venmo,
Everything
all
is
corn,
going to be
chocolate. I don't know how they pay
calculated
them.
for.
Everything goes,
Mhm.
yes, all of that. Lump it into one number, give that to me on one sheet of paper. I'll work on a mortgage for you. This is really exciting because now we have an outlet for, yes, we need down payment, 20%, 25% down. Yes, it's a non-QM loan. There's going to be an origination fee of 2.5, 2.75%, right? So those things are, but if you go back to the CIA, right? Credit, income, assets. A lot of times we didn't have income and then we couldn't do a loan. Now we can. We have a program. Alexandra, this is exciting to me because I'm a mortgage nerd, honestly, and this is exciting because this sort of completes the circle. This was the only program for the segment, a huge segment in our town. I didn't have a product for. Now we do. And honestly, I just can't think of any other segment in our population that we don't have, we don't service, we don't offer a
I
product.
am
This
super
is very,
excited,
very
and we
exciting.
actually have a
Exciting.
question, and
Yeah.
I would like to pause for a second on our major topic and answer Benny Shell. So the question is, when purchasing a home, what is the number one focus when starting the negotiation process? What area would be the most beneficial? So Benny, I would say that number one thing that you look at when you purchase a home and when you start the negotiation process is the motivation of the other side. Because motivation is number one factor that is going to define how the conversation is going to go, like how the whole process is going to go, like smoothly, or if there is enough motivation, if the person is reasonable, on the price, if the person is reasonable on the terms. Because I mean, like, as many, like in 12 years of my career, I had all kinds of different deals done, and some of the terms, when people would look at those contracts, they would be like, whoa, you guys are all insane. Like, the buyer is insane, the seller is insane. However, they found each other and the terms work for them. So number one is the motivation. Why is the seller moving? And why is the seller selling? Are they selling because they need to? Are they selling because they are trying out the market and they might be priced like super high and they're like, well, I don't care if I sell or not? Or let's say I'm selling because I can't afford that house. That is a totally different motivation. I'm selling because I moved out of state. I relocated for work, and I actually cannot afford to carry 2 mortgages. Like, the motivation is the number one factor. The number 2 factor is the condition of the house. Is the condition of the house, like, does the condition of the house match the price? And is the price, number 3 factor is the price. Is the price right? Like, especially if you're purchasing the house for using financing, and David can tell you that, like, no matter what, when you're using financing, 90% of the properties will be subject to appraisal. And David, what happens when we get to go after the property and our purchase price does not match the appraisal? Talk to us about it.
Well, you go back to the negotiating table.
First of all, why do we need the
that's
appraisal?
when.
Let's talk about, like when we get the financing, we need the appraisal, correct? Why?
Well, if the bank's giving you money, financing, or giving you any dollars, they need to make sure that that dollar is financing the equal the property. So they're not gonna give you $1 million on a property that is worth 100,000. So they want to make sure that it's actually logical. They're You know, you would give, if you were to loan someone money, you would make sure that you're loaning against something equal in value, right? So you don't, so that's simple. So actually, Benny asked a question. I want to sort of answer his question, if you don't mind. He says, if the seller's willing to negotiate, should I focus on the rate buy down? Do you mind
Yes,
if I answer
absolutely.
his question real quick?
Absolutely.
All right. So hello, Benny. So here's the thing. The rate buy down is going to cost you a certain amount of money. Okay, there are two different rate buy downs. There's the 2-to-1 and there's the 3-to-1. We've talked about this in our previous, and there's also the permanent, which is for the 30 years fixed. I personally wouldn't do the permanent because we all know rates are going to drop at some point. A year, 2 years. I'm not going to venture to say when rates will drop, but the whole sentiment in the country is they're
They
not
never
going to stay
do.
at 7.5.
They never do.
So
We
they're going to
never
start.
had a case, correct, where the rates were the same through the year.
Well, what I mean is this is a temporary measure to curb the inflation. So, so you have three options, Benny. You could do the permanent buy down for the next 30 years. That's going to be more expensive, which means your X amount of dollars is going to buy less of the rate down. You have the 2-to-1 buy down, which means, for example, your rate is 7.5%. You bring it down to 5.5% the first year, 2%, 2-to-1. Okay, so the first year goes down 2%, the second year goes down 1%, the third year goes back to this year's rate, which is 7.5. There's the 3-to-1 buy down, which means the first year goes down 3%, second year 2%, and you understand. So the seller doesn't care if the seller, let's say, gives you $10,000. You could apply the $10,000 to the purchase price. You could have an instant $10,000 equity in your house. If the home is worth, let's say, $450, is being sold for $450, and you're like, you know what, give me a $10,000 concession. The seller doesn't care if they apply it to your closing costs or if they take it off the purchase price, sell it to you for $440. Doesn't matter to them. But if you buy it for $440, you all of a sudden have a $10,000 instant equity that you just made for yourself. But now you have to pay for closing costs and buy down if you want buy down. If you ask me what I would do, and sorry for this lengthy answer, I think temporary buy down is really cool. And ask your loan officer which you qualify for, the 2-to-1 or if you qualify for the 3-to-1, and it depends on how much your agent can negotiate to get for you. Ideally, you want the 3-to-1. Benny, why I like the 3-to-1 is because the amount, the buy down amount goes to the bank, to your current bank, and they hold on to it, and they apply the buy down amount every month. So effectively your payment's low. Instead of 7.5, your payment would be equal to that of the 4.5%, right? And let's say rates drop. It's a good question. You spent $10,000, $15,000 on buy down. What if the rates drop in September or a year from now and you haven't really recouped your investment? You see, with the 3-to-1 buy down, that whatever's left is going to get applied to your principal, reducing your principal. So that's not a waste. With the permanent buy down, you just bought down your rate for the next 30 years. There's nothing remaining. With the temporary 2-to-1 and 3-to-1, whatever that amount is that your loan officer will calculate is going to be held in your escrow account with the servicer. And if the rates drop in September and you call your loan officer, want to do a refinance, whatever the remainder unused portion is will get applied to your principal. You still get to use that equity. Does that make sense? I think it's sort of hedging both sides, and I would do that because that you could protect your buy down and still try and get as low a payment today as possible.
And I would say
it is sort of like,
I know the answers that we give are very lengthy and very informative, Benny, and we always welcome you to sit down, and a lot of times it is easier to, easier to figure out when you draw it down on a piece of paper. And one of the things that I usually ask my buyers is that how long you are planning to stay in the house. And the answer to that question is going to define your further strategy. Because, if you're looking to be there for 2 years, 2-1 buy down would be a great option. Like you probably don't need the permanent buy down at that point. If you're looking to be in that house for the next 5 to 7 years, we're here in Las Vegas, 7 years is the average time that people spend in their residence. So if this is the case, you should sit down with the loan officer and just get it, like compare apples to apples, get it on a piece of paper written down for you. This is what the permanent buy down is going to cost you. This is what your payment is going to look like. This is what you can do for 3-2-1. This is what the 2-1 buy down is going to look like for you. And then you could compare it accordingly and decide what is beneficial for you. And once again, if you are following the economy, if you're following the mortgage news, and if there are two, there are factors that influence our interest rates. Like, why do we have the higher interest rates right now? It's because we had a lot of money printed out through the pandemic years, and now we have to somehow burn through it. And this is what is happening, we have a higher interest rates right now trying to fight the inflation that is, that is caused by a lot of money being printed out during the pandemic. Now, guess what happened? Like the recent news, we know that the government is going to print out another, $100 million? What is it? Like another huge chunk of money. Guess what is going to happen? The inflation is going to go back up and the interest rates are going to go higher as well. So think about it, how long we're going to deal with this high inflation and with those interest rates. That's when you put that into the thought process, this will always should be the factor in your decision, permanent buy down or temporary buy down. Or if you were thinking about using this $10,000 towards your closing costs. Now, one more thing that I want you to be very aware of. So if the seller is giving you $10,000 as a contribution, you cannot use it towards your down payment, correct, David? You can
Correct.
only use it towards your closing costs or the interest buy down.
Benny is doing a VA 30 years, so he doesn't have to have. He could do a zero down, and it was a sentence, not a question. But you are allowed to do temporary buy downs on VAs as well, Benny. And if he's still watching, so he could do a buy down on a VA as well. I would do a 2-to-1 buy down, bring it down from 7 to 5, from 6 to 4, whatever that is. And I think, Alexandra, the most important understanding how long you're going to stay in the house is important. But people, their thought process is like, I want to be safe, so I want to get a loan that's going to be for the long term. And in 18 years of being in the mortgage industry, I haven't seen anyone pay off a mortgage. I haven't seen anyone live in a house for 30 years. It just doesn't happen nowadays. So, again, Las Vegas, on average, we move about within 5 years, yes. 5 to 7 years. You're absolutely 5 to, yes. So, and depending on age, if you're retired, then you're on fixed income. But if you're younger, it means, and your career's on the up, which means in the future, you're going to make more money. It is important to keep the payments affordable today, right? In the future, you're going to make more money. You're going to save more. You're probably going to give yourself an upgrade to a better home in 3 to 5 years, 7 years, what that. Now, in 3 to 5 years, you'll have built so much equity in the home, and so much, and the rent will have gone up, so you'll be able to rent this house, get some, do things with it, have rental positive income, which will help you with the next home, so those are important things to consider: your age, your plans.
If your family is expanding, if you're bringing more income.
If your employer's going to send you to a different state, there's no limit to the answer, and everybody's answer is different. So you need to answer the question, how long are you going to stay in this home? And the truth is, it's not going to be 30 years. It's not likely.
Absolutely. And honestly, guys, rates do fluctuate. They fluctuate with the years. And we know that, once again, there are factors that are going to influence them. We're going to have the election. And of course, like both parties are going to get the votes through like pushing down the interest. That happens like every 4 years. Like you guys can look up. Google has the stats for it. Like every
Really?
election year, there's
no idea.
an interest. Like there's an interest lowering trend during each election year.
Okay.
And I think there's the gas prices are going to go down and the interest rates are going to go down. So you can they're defined. There are major factors for the U.S. nation that are defined what people are most concerned about, and mortgage rates and gas prices are like the top 2 factors. So they're going to be,
Well, smart.
Exactly.
Smart
so those numbers are going to be manipulated by, by the politicians during the election year, which is happening no matter what party you follow or, like who you vote for. So you might as well just use it to your advantage when you can, no matter who you vote for.
Oh, you mean to expect it and sort of time your locks and time your purchase by that? Is that what you're saying?
I would say, I would say put your application in, do your homework, put your application in, because, I mean, David, you and I have been doing it for a while. Let's say how much of a rolling coaster it has been since January 1st of 2023. We're finishing the first quarter, and we had so many different predictions and forecasts for the loans and for the interest rates.
Yeah.
And what can we see? We see that one day they skyrocket, and and then the feds come out and like we have the inflation report being coming out with better numbers, and we see the significant drops. So did we have people who were pre-approved and who locked the day that the rates went down and who actually got to save themselves like $200 or $300 each month on their monthly mortgage payments? Absolutely.
The rates did drop. For a short period. They're not down anymore, but for a short period. And what we had to do is, since we're a broker, we have many lenders. I hope none of my account executives are watching. We literally had to cancel a loan here, take it to a different bank, so we could give them a better interest rate. And that's
this is what we have to do. But what I'm saying is that we've been at 7.5, and we've been at at 6.25, correct, this year already. And this fluctuation has happened at least 2 or 3 times now.
We haven't been at 6.25, not
without the buy down, correct?
You're taking no. So it was roughly at 7.6 and down to maybe 6.7. We're down to with conventionals, we're at 7.6. Again, rate makes me nervous. These talk because depends on the down payment, depends on so many factors. There's no one rate. So saying what the rate, there's no such thing as the rate. Everyone qualifies for a different rate usually. So, but yeah, roughly 7.6, give or take. And FHA is roughly about 6.97% now. Yeah, it's expensive. It's gonna get expensive for the next 2 months, I think. My opinion. April and May, he's still gonna increase rates by a quarter. That's my prediction.
Absolutely. And I wanted to talk to you, David, about the affordability. About the affordability, because with the rates fluctuation, because there are 3 factors that usually go into the affordability of the homes. We have the house prices, we have the interest rates, and we have the salaries. And these 2 factors, they define the affordability of the house and the affordability of the nation to be able to purchase a home altogether. Mm-hmm. And so right now we have high interest rates. Are they all the time highs? No, they're not. We had the rates, we had the rates way higher. Let's say in the end of 70s, beginning of 80s. That is a fact. But like, are they higher than what we're used to? Yes, they're probably as high as they're the highest they've been since 2010. I would want to say.
So if if let's say the Fed has a target, Fed's target is an inflation rate of 2%, 2 to 3%. That's their ideal inflation target. And and let's go back and see when we had that target rate, inflation rate. That was, I think, December of 2019, January of 2020, right before the COVID lockdown. Our inflation rate was at 1.9%. Cool. So the inflation was at the target, at the bullseye of Fed Reserve, where they want it to be. Okay, what were the interest rates? Conventional rates were at 5%. So this means, I mean, I'm going to draw a simple logical line that if we have a inflation that where the Fed wants us to be, which is around between less than 3, higher than 2, or around 2, normal interest rates can be 5%. Anything below 5% is artificially subsidized, okay? And that's why we have what we have. So we shouldn't expect rates in the 2s and the 3s. That's not going to happen. And one more thing, I was reading something this morning, a newsletter that goes out to loan officers, Alexandra, and it said that during the first quarter of 2023, this past 3 months, the baby boomers have surpassed, first time in the last 8 years, surpassed millennials, which is you and I, in buying homes. I think that's because, well, besides the fact that they've bought homes before, they had a healthy equity that they could have contributed and bought something more affordable. They need to scale down, and they probably have better incomes than millennials do. I think one of the 17% several decades ago. So this does not scare them. They've seen this show. They know what's coming. They're aware of the fluctuations. They're going to buy now, and they're going to refi later. In fact, there's a generational gap. The older the person I'm talking to, they're not scared. They're like, David, I'll refinance. I want to get a good house. I want to get the house that I want. Versus the younger, the generation, they're like, David, what's the interest rate? I want 2s and 3s. My friend got a house in 2s and 3s, and it's just this focus on something that's never going to happen. I think boomers are being more wise now.
To me, what is fear? The fear is the lack of experience in some area. Once a lot of us would be scared to skydive. A lot of us have the fear of the heights, and we think that skydiving is so dangerous. But the truth is, skydiving accidents are so rare that, or the airplane crashes are super rare. So, but we still have a fear because we don't know much about either the sports or the activity. So when you're talking about the baby boomers who are in their 80s right now, they already have the experience, and they already seen this game, they already seen this cycle quite a few times. And you are absolutely right. First of all, when we talk to baby boomers, they're like, oh, when they were in their late 20s, early 30s, their first mortgage rate was at 12-15%. So, and they still remember it, guys, because you do remember the interest rate of your first home purchase. That stays in your memory. You might have, you might change 20 homes, but you will always remember the interest rate that you had on your very first home, on the very first home that you purchased. And then the second thing, if you have a great CPA, if you have, if you have a knowledgeable person who does your taxes, that is another factor that you are going to look at, is that you are writing off the interest rate. You're writing it off. It is your tax write-off. And I can't tell you how many people I serve every single year who can't afford to purchase properties for cash, but they do get loans just for the reason
To get the
to
write-off.
get a write-off. Yes, because they don't want to bleed that money into the tax. They would rather have a mortgage, have the, like take the cash, invest it in whatever their investment preference is, and write off the taxes, write off that mortgage interest on taxes. And I have those clients, and this is their, this is their monetary strategy. And believe me, when they made it to their 80s, like a lot of them know what they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this is a good time for me to plug in my calculator that I built, and it's on my website, IQRateMortgages.com, where we talk about David's. It's free, guys. Go use it. IQRateMortgages.com/wealth accumulator. Basically, it is the 6 strategies that I've learned over the 18 years that I've been in a business. And I think the strategy number 3 is your interest deduction on the mortgage that minimizes your liability to the IRS, maximizes your refund, minimizes what you need to pay to the IRS. So and I try to, when I have face-to-face conversations, I bring that up. I talk about these strategies that people have never heard of, and the pathway to getting wealthy. It's not just about the payment. We'll talk about the payment. I'll answer all the questions. But when they ask David, they do ask David, what should I do? I'm like, I don't know what you should do. Why don't we crunch the numbers and see what you should do? Okay. And you should see, once the numbers come together on a screen, right, the equity that they're going to build over the years, the equity that they're going to pay down, the appreciation. What if they rent this out and buy another home in 5 years? This whole thing paints a different picture than, instead of just focusing my rent versus mortgage payment, and people leave with hope. So use the calculator, and there's 6 strategies. You don't have to plan for all 6, but if you can use all 6, if you're that disciplined person who use all 6, your equity, your net worth, in my opinion, will explode.
This is not like, we're not talking about get rich quick solutions. Yeah, this is not about the quick solution, like making the money quick. We're talking about long-term investments that are going to slowly but surely generate you profit. It's not going to be huge, like a huge amount of equity in a year or 2. Of course, like those who got their properties anytime after 2010, obviously they experienced a massive growth in equity. But also, I can tell you guys that we surpassed, our height of the prices in Las Vegas was 2006, and the absolute bottom of the prices was 2010. So in 2019, even before pandemic, we surpassed the price level of 2006. So anybody who bought at the heights of the market in 2006, and if you held your property by 2019, you already surpassed that number, surpassed that equity. Of course, we know that there were a ton of overpriced properties, and if you guys own a high-rise, don't get mad at me. Like, the high-rises are a totally different building, totally different animals, and yes, the high-rises were grossly overpriced, and they were sold for absolutely crazy amounts of money, just because we have a limited market to that. But when we're talking about the single-family residences, the townhomes, and the condos, that is that is actually the stats that in 2019 we surpassed the heights of the market, so people got the equity. David, are
Yeah,
you looking for more?
that's a
Are
very
you looking
useful
for more
statistic.
questions?
Yeah, I can
And
answer some more questions, of course.
I don't want to make this live too long, but I do want to propose to you that next time we're going to talk about the correlation between the inflation and the interest rate, and why the 30-year fixed mortgage is actually hedged against the inflation. I think it's a very interesting topic that would, like that we can break down and actually talk about, like on a regular people's language, in a regular people's language, so people can
Yeah,
hear it
yep,
and understand why mortgage is the hedge against the inflation, and why when we have the inflation as high as it is right now, it is absolutely not a great idea to keep your money in the bank, like keep on saving it. Savings is not how you create wealth, because it's great if you can save more money or save the money at a higher rate than the inflation, but it's still, saving is not the money generating activity. Saving is still going to deplete your funds. You need to, yeah,
right,
you need to make profit, and your profit needs to be either equal to the level of inflation in order to stay on the same level, or it has to be greater so that you actually do generate income. And right now is the best, it's the best timing, and it's the proper timing. If you watch like all of those like Instagram gurus and TikTok gurus, and you watch all these young people saying that I have 2, 3, 4 streams of income, like this is great. And depending on your age, you can, like you can apply different strategies. But like I come from the background where we do it safe. Can you have risky investments? Absolutely. But I think David would agree with me that our strategy is safe but slow investment and equity gain.
So I think in uncertain times, and this is one of the uncertain times, yes, inflation's high, which means the buying power of your dollar is losing. If it's 6%, then you're losing 6% annually. So we all get that. That's easy. But um, at uncertain times, they say you got to buy when there's blood in the streets. So we haven't really seen blood. Are we going to see blood? I don't know. I really don't want to venture. You and I take on that responsibility. Say, well, it's not going to happen. Let's wait and see what happens. And you may want to have some money in it for a short period. Holding on to money for a long time is obviously, inflation's going to do its thing. But if something were to happen, and I don't think, it's my personal opinion, like we're going to have a crash, but you want to always be ready with some amount of cash to acquire something cheaply. To that, Alexandra, I'll say that when money was cheap in 2020 and 21, we had an insane appreciation. Now, money is expensive. By that logic, by that token, we should have cheap homes. Do we have cheap homes? Well, we had a slight adjustment. We had a 20% adjustment last year. Are prices crashing? They're not crashing. Are they going to crash? I don't know. I think more people are hopeful. People that are realistic, they're buying. The people that are hopeful, they're waiting. The truth is, this is, in my opinion, as cheap as proms are going to be. That's my opinion, because money's expensive. Money's getting more and more expensive. So you can't have, how do I say this? This is as cheap as real estate's going to be. And as soon as money starts easing, and it's going to happen, we don't know when, we don't want to take on the responsibility of saying, oh, it's going to be in September. No one knows. I don't think Jerome Powell knows. But whenever he does start easing rates, we're going to have even higher prices. It's important to make the distinction that if you want to wait a month or two or three, you can. But if prices don't drop, we don't have that unicorn of a crash, then you better buy, because if you think this is expensive, there's something else coming, in my opinion. I'm very confident their homes are going to appreciate way more.
I have my own opinion on housing being cheap. Guys, houses, like real estate, will never be cheap. Never, ever. You're going to wake up and say, oh, this is cheap. Cheap is a relative, it's a relative substance. Cheap can only be, you realize that something is cheap when you compare it. So when I have a buyer coming from California who is selling their 900 square foot home built in 1952 and for $1.5 million and getting a brand new 2,500 square foot home here at $600,000, guess what they tell me? Oh my God, it is so cheap. Is that $600,000 home seem cheap for somebody who lives in Nevada with the Nevada income? No, it is not. Is it cheap from somebody who is coming from Midwest, where the median price of the house is like $300,000? It is extremely expensive for them. So that is one factor of cheap being a relative, relative substance. The other thing is, David, when were the houses cheap in Las Vegas? Do you know the time when the houses?
2008 to 10?
Absolutely. You know why?
Am I right?
You know why? Because you know the difference. Because now in 2023, you can compare. But when it was 2008 and 2010, and I swear to God, I am the victim of the same thinking, of the same logic. Because in 2010, I was in a multiple offer situation where the house in North Las Vegas, it was a house, I think it was 1 year old. It was a brand new home. It was a foreclosure. And the bank was asking $88,000 for this three bathroom home in North Las Vegas, brand new home. And I offered the bank $80,000. And the agent called me and she said, we're in a multiple offer situation. There is another agent who is also trying to buy it for himself. And he offered $80,800. And I went stubborn, and I didn't beat over that, that $80,800. I didn't give more money. Well, sure enough, I know the agent who bought that house. And sure enough, we're good friends, but he made a point to call me once a year or every time we would meet. He would show me the appreciation on that house. And he's like, do you remember not beating over? Do you remember going cheap by whatever, I could have given $1,000 more and had that house? And he told me, he's like, if you gave them $1,000 more, I would not take the house. So, but at that moment of time in 2010, I was the one who were thinking, no, I'm not going to give them an extra $1,000. Now I'm going back. Guess what my thought process is? It was so cheap. Should have given them $5,000 more.
Yeah, you would have had $400 appreciation. That's a $350,000 home right now.
That is my story about the appreciation, guys. So, appreciation and
Yeah,
the relative understanding of what is cheap. So stop looking for cheap, look for affordable. So affordable, this is the factor that you should pay attention to. Don't look for cheap. Like don't hope it's going to be cheap. It will not. It will not. It will only
I
turn
agree.
cheap when you look back 10 years, like when you look 10 years from now, you look back and you would be like, that was cheap. That was cheap compared to everything that I have right now. And this is, this is the thing that I would want to conclude today's today's live with this, guys. Like, remember that it's not going to be cheap today. It's going to be really cheap when you look back at it and when you can say, I made good choices, I made right choices, I connected with right people, and I had the right strategy in mind, and I had a long-term strategy in mind. And remember, David and I are always here. Like, thank you, Benny, for asking your questions. Once again, we're always open to sit down, to draw it out on a piece of paper, show you what the numbers are going to look like with different types of buy downs, with the price reductions, and how to use that seller contribution to the highest of your benefits. And yes, guys, right now the houses are not cheap. They're not going to be cheap ever. But what we have, and what I call everybody to take the advantage of right now, we have a lot of motivated sellers who sobered up after the frenzy of the pandemic years, and those sellers are ready to negotiate, and those sellers are going to help you to make the house purchase more affordable. We still have tons of contributions. We still negotiate with everybody, including the new home builders. Even the new home builders are willing to negotiate with us. Am I correct, David?
They're afraid of you. They're definitely afraid of you. Yeah.
So well, go ahead.
I think if we were to break down markets, any given market, as sellers or buyers, yes, seller market, buyer market, seller market, buyer market. Right now is a buyer's market, which means the buyer dictates the conditions. The seller sort of accommodates. What I keep hearing, a lot of the buyers are like, I'm going to wait for rates to drop. I'm going to wait for crash or whatever. So basically, the buyers are saying, I'm going to wait for the seller's market to buy. That's what I keep hearing people say, right? And it just doesn't make sense.
There is an
I'm going to leave you with that.
There is an opportunity in every single market. Like, there's no such a thing, like not a single time in my, in my 12 years in real estate, there was a year where we did not have people transacting with real estate. We transact with real estate all the time. It's just, and I'm lucky because of the pool of clients that we have and how educated they are and how much information they share with me. I get so many amazing strategies and amazing ways of understanding the real estate and economy from my from my clients, because the creativity is there, and I get to work with the wonderful people who share their thought process with me, and a lot of times I learn from them why and how they're doing certain things, why and how they're coming into certain markets, and why they're, I learned it from my clients that financing a home is a tax strategy. It is the way of saving on your tax bill. And I didn't know that. I learned it from my clients, and I'm not, I'm not shy to say it, because I have wonderful, educated, and experienced clients that are sharing with me all the time. And so, David, I know you've been doing loans in 6, in 8, in 10, in, like you're doing them right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, like people were always getting mortgages.
Always.
So
Always and always will be. Yes. It's an inseparable part of our economy.
exactly. And the fact that the rates are higher right now, it doesn't mean that you're going to quit living under the roof. People will still need the roof over their heads. It's just one way or another.
Remember, we're only dating the rate, right? The cliche. Rate's not permanent. Rate's not our wife. We're just
I
dating
agree
it.
with you 100%.
So, yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much, David. As always, we're going to post the information. If you don't mind, text me the link to your mortgage calculator, to your wealth calculator, so we could post it at the bottom of this video. And for everybody, feel free to DM us to post your questions under this video. We're always happy to respond to them. And if those questions have anything to do with your private information, please contact us directly. You'll have David's information and mine. We're always here to share our expertise and to guide you through the process.
Thanks, Alexandra. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.